The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.
Good morning. Welcome to the Kurre and Klapow show here on the Tony Curry Facebook page. Of course, we're on TKR and Tony Curry Radio. We do this kind of as a supplemental extra kind of thing because we have a lot of people that like to watch us here. And so I do something every single morning on Facebook Live. But you can hear all our stuff on the TKR app, TKR through Apple, Tony Curry Radio on Android. And of course, we have the Tony Curry Radio podcast. We have over 1,000 episodes of Dark Side of the Pooch, Mission Minded. We'll talk about Damon Johnson, the Damon Johnson Show, Austin Hanks Show, Blues Almighty, who, of course, he does with Billy Gibbons, who had something to say last night about Jeff Beck. Fantastic stuff. So make sure you check us out. We greatly appreciate you watching this morning here on the Tony Curry Radio and, of course, our Tony Curry Facebook page here. We'll talk about some Jeff Beck. I'm sorry for your loss. That bothers me. We'll talk about it.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. It bothers me. I'm not being critical, but
that phrase you don't like.
I'm sorry for your loss. I'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That's good.
Assuming that we don't have any screwy weather come through today, we'll be on Fox 6 as we normally do for our regular Thursday hit. Yes. We're going to be talking about bachelor parties
and Bachelorette. Because you sent it to me because it works.
We know that 30% of dudes cheat on their bachelor party. Oh, yeah. I don't think women cheat as much as men do. Now, I'm not saying they don't cheat in life as much as men do. But I think they cheat differently. Because I think when a woman has an emotional relationship with a man, she's cheating on him.
Right, guys are stupid. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Today is Kiss a Ginger Day.
Ginger redhead.
Yeah. There ain't nothing wrong with Me Too on that, is there? Kiss a Ginger Day? Can we even say that anymore?
Yeah. Prince Harry refers to himself as a ginger. That's something I'd never heard.
That just sounds like just randomly going out there and finding yourself a redhead and laying some lips on it.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't kiss. No. Okay.
And my 10-year-old daughter's question of the day.
It needs to be a segment because she has yet to have not a question that just makes you go, hey.
She said something to me this morning. There's a little redhead, I guess, in her class, and they throw names out.
Does she know? Does she know it's Kiss a Redhead Day?
Yeah, I told her. I said, I didn't say Kiss a Redhead Day. Okay. Because I got to be super careful.
Yes.
I said it's Redhead Day.
Okay, that's fine.
And she goes, we have a redhead, we call her Carrot Top. And I was like, does she like that? And then she told me something else they call her. I was like, geez, dude. She goes, well, she calls me names too. I was like, wow. Her question today is, what would the world look like without men?
Did she really ask that?
Yeah. And I was like, just as I was pulling into the carpool, hey, Dad, what do you think the day would look like? What would the world look like without men? And I was like,
God, that is.
I was like,
she's too young because we don't want to exploit your daughter, but it would be so great to have her like on video, like actually saying it.
You know, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What would the world look like without men? I only had like 3 or 4 minutes before I dropped her off, and I didn't want to fill her head with too much. I said, well, first of all, the world would end. She said, why? I said, because there'd be no more kids. We couldn't procreate.
That wasn't one.
Well, that was the only thing I could say because I had 3 minutes. I didn't want to get into the philosophy and whatever. Okay. First of all, I'm wondering why she's asking me that question.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say, well, you wouldn't have a daddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's coming from.
I do.
Yeah, I do too. Jeez Louise, man, that was a big question.
Good.
Cooper, good morning to you. And Landers Cook, good morning, Landers. How you doing? So this Jeff Beck thing, you just walked in the studio. We talked for a few minutes before you get on the air. This Jeff Beck thing, and you were like, you need to do a Facebook Live. And I was planning on doing something last night. And I wanted to say he was before my time, but he really wasn't.
No.
I've done classic rock my entire life, and we didn't play a lot of Yardbirds only because there was the one album that had a chock full of hits, and it was great. He replaced Eric Clapton. But I don't want to get caught up too much in the moment, because when someone passes away, it's really easy to take it way too far. But he was a top 5 guitarist all time, according to Rolling Stone magazine. His influence on rock and roll was undeniable. I think the average listener right now who loves classic rock, they're saddened by the loss of Jeff Beck. They probably know Jeff Beck more for what he just did back in 2022, which was
I know.
Go on tour with Johnny Depp.
Oh, that's right.
Johnny Depp in the midst of the whole Amber Heard thing, right after he won his thing. He's on the
yeah,
road on
yeah,
stage
yeah.
with Jeff Beck, and I'm going, okay, that's weird. So they had their own band.
It's like, what do you call it? It's like marrying up or...
Yeah, and it was kind of like, okay, this is a weird mashup.
Yeah.
So I think more people, Gen Zs,
but
millennials
guitar aficionados, or not even aficionados, do it.
No, I mean, we saw Damon Johnson's eulogy of him last night. And he had a beautiful picture where he actually scratched his name in the back of one of his axes. And you could certainly make an argument. And Jeff Beck had something really interesting to say in an article in Rolling Stone magazine. Well, they talked about, he'd been fired from bands. He created his own bands. He did all kinds of solo things. He had the Yardbirds thing, obviously, was huge. But he's like, and they were like, does it bother you that your name's not as big as Ron Wood, who he was with when Ron Wood was nobody?
Right.
As big as Rod Stewart, who he was also in a band with, and Rod Stewart was nobody. Rod Stewart, Eric Clapton.
Who he replaced.
And he's like, could you imagine having to deal with all that crap? He goes, no, I'm good. I love being where I'm at. And he goes, could you imagine with that fame and fortune? I don't want to deal with that. And that, you just, and I mentioned it's a lot like Christine McVie. She took a backseat to Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham to an extent, and was super happy with that. You have to have leaders. You have to have your clams. You have to have your front runners. You have to have your people in the middle, and you have to have your followers. And he was a glam front runner indirectly based on how good he was at everything else he did.
That's exactly, and you said fame and fortune.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm quite confident that the fortune was pretty close to everybody else, even if the fame wasn't. I mean, he wasn't. I can't believe he was a starving artist as he made it there. He was. I mean,
he's not nearly worth what Ron Wood or Eric Clapton is financially speaking. No, but just the fact that so many people wanted to emulate him, wanted to play like him. When you hear a singer, for the most part, we can tell you exactly who it is the minute they start singing if they're famous. Right. You don't get that a lot with guitarists. When I hear Damon Johnson, obviously, is a guitar aficionado himself. He could probably listen to I could probably play a riff from a guitar player, and he could probably go, "I know exactly who that is." Yeah. Most people can't do that. Jeff Beck was one of those guys where you could. Which is really, really rare, and really just tells you just how big he was.
Well, and you got to do you have to do your homework. So if you listen to Eddie Van Halen, this is what I was talking about the NPR. Unless you're old enough or you appreciate guitar enough, you're thinking Eddie Van Halen, which is who he is, but Eddie Van Halen's foundation, if you will, was Jeff Beck. Yeah. And they did an interview with Rolling Stone about it. They always, who's the number one guitarist of all time? And when you talk about pure guitarists, they talk about Jeff Beck because he could play anything. Yeah. And not just play anything for rock stuff. Had jazz. I mean, he was somebody. Now, I love this about certain musicians who absolutely embraced his instrument, right? The craft of his instrument, and it's a different character, right? It's a different kind of leader and elite entertainer. It's different. He was about his guitar, and then everything else kind of, if you will, came around it as compared to being a lead singer or as compared to being an awesome guitarist and a performer.
I think it's always interesting, and I've been backstage enough in my career. I've been blessed to meet a lot of people. When you walk backstage and you meet a guy who's about ready to go on stage for 2 to 3 hours playing his guitar, he practices. Yeah. And he wants to be holding this instrument in his hand, and he's just messing with it. You walk in, and you're about ready to do an interview, and he's just sitting there playing his guitar. And there's not many people who love and have a talent and a craft for something they love so much that they can't put it down. That is like
it's the basketball. It's a basketball player.
Like I do a radio show, and I'm doing a radio show. I don't want to be around the radio station. I mean, I love radio, right? But I don't come in here. I mean, I got a radio station in the house, right? I got the TKR studios here, and it's run 24 hours a day. I could do a show 24 hours a day for the rest of my life, but it's not something that I tinker with, that I toy with. No. And Jeff Beck was one of those guys where anytime you saw him, he had a guitar in his hand, and he was just screwing around, doing different riffs, and it was just part of who he was.
He's a painter. He's a creative. I mean,
but even painters.
Well, yes, because right.
Painters will go years about painting stuff. I got a really good friend of mine who's a really good painter,
true.
and I asked him to paint me something for my birthday
He
once,
can't.
and he said I can't. And I said why? And he goes because I'm not into it right now. I don't. And he's a radio guy. I don't want to paint. I said that's what I'm. He asked me what I want for my birthday. I said I want a painting. He said it may be.
I can't.
Yeah,
I'm not there yet.
And I'm like,
I'm not there right now.
What are you, Picasso?
Like,
He's like, no. He goes, it's got to be an energy. It's got to be something.
But you're absolutely right, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing when anybody. It's really interesting because there's a fine line. We've talked about this in other shows. There is a fine line, whether it is an artist, whether it is an athlete, whether it is somebody in a profession. There's such a fine line between passion and love versus obsession versus and I'll throw it in there, fear of irrelevance or losing out. And I'm not suggesting that for Jeff Beck, but particularly that passion obsession thing. We see it in athletes all the time. It's not just I love this, I can't exist without it. And what's dangerous about it, or can be dangerous, is if it's not channeled in the right way. You don't become a professional athlete. You don't become a guitarist. Who that's what you do for a living. Then the question becomes, how do you spend the rest of your life? Well, how do you build out the rest of it? And man, particularly somebody like a guitarist who's constantly riffing on it, is he able to put it down? Can he put it down?
Maybe it was like his mate. Maybe it was healthy in a way that he didn't want to put it down. He felt good about doing it and made him feel good. And that being said, he was just on tour at the age of 78 last year.
His guitar gently sings.
It does. So pretty amazing guy. And I know a lot of people that are.
What'd you see? He died.
He's 78.
No, but bacterial meningitis. That is not a way to go.
No. But he played with Eric Clapton, Ron Wood. We mentioned Rod Stewart. He played with John Bon Jovi. He did work with Tina Turner.
Everybody wanted to play with him.
He had won 7 Grammys, which was great because some people say awards aren't. He's in the Rock and Roll of Fame as a solo artist and a Yardbird, which is one of just a few people to be in twice. But it's always nice when people are recognized for their work, even when they don't really care about being recognized for it.
Of course.
And that's, because when I saw Jeff Beck, I thought, I bet he hadn't won a Grammy. And then when I saw he won 7, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
And I don't, listen, when people say they don't want to be recognized for it, and they don't care.
Yeah, it's like birthdays.
Yeah.
Josh Klapow.
Yeah.
I don't care about birthdays.
It's different than
birthdays. Aren't special to me. And
I guess it is.
Then it'll be a Friday, and they'll go. I'll say, "What'd you do this week?" Oh, my birthday on Tuesday. I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me it's your birthday? We had. You want to be recognized.
Everybody.
Maybe not over the top recognized, but
exactly. Everybody wants to be. Everybody needs to be. Humans need to be validated.
Yeah.
We can get validated in different ways.
Yes.
Right, and so you're right. I know a couple people who. They have some anxiety. They don't they're adults. No birthday parties.
Yeah.
They don't want any birthday parties, and it's not like, oh, come on. No, it's like a dead serious no, because it makes them uncomfortable. Now, is it that they don't want people to recognize them and their special day? Absolutely not. They want people to recognize it, but it's how. And so somebody like Jeff Beck, I think it's the difference between playing and doing for recognition. Mm-hmm. Right? Versus doing because you're passionate and you love it and whatever. Oh, and by the way, somebody else goes, you've done an amazing job. So I don't think anybody doesn't like it. It's the pursuit of validation that actually gets you in trouble.
Yeah. In
relationships, sports, really anything, business, if you're doing it to be validated, meaning to have the outside world say that you are something, that's psychologically, that's super dangerous.
Yeah. But to be recognized for it down the road is pretty special.
Yeah, after the fact, because to be recognized for something that you did that you were passionate about.
So I'm not being critical here, and I think when people pass away or people are really sick, people want to respond.
Yeah.
They want to show their support for you. We certainly saw it with the DeMar Hamlin situation, which is amazing. He flew home yesterday.
He's out.
I'm like,
He's
out.
out.
You're the first thing my son said last night. They should have played the game. And I said, you know what? They should have played the game.
Yeah, but
and I said, hindsight, Santo.
Yeah.
He's like, I know. He said, but they should have played the game.
Nobody thought.
And I was like,
but nobody
the
thought.
dude died twice, and I said, but at the time, I said, if we had known at that moment in time that he was going to live like a regular injury and got up and walked off the field, absolutely. I said, but we didn't know that at the time. And I said, if they had played the game, he goes, well, what if they had played the game and he had ended up dying? Would it have changed anything? I was like,
Yeah. Chuck Hughes.
I don't. Yeah.
The dude was dead for 10 minutes.
So
Go ahead.
I read a lot. I was on Facebook Live, and I get a lot of things from Damon. And that's the first account I went to on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter this morning because I wanted to see her last night to see what he had to say about it because I knew he was a huge Jeff Beck fan, and obviously he's got a show here on Tony Curry Radio. So we just know how important these rock and roll artists were, and certainly when Eddie Van Halen died, it was. I mean, he opened up for Eddie Van Halen. I mean, he knew Eddie, and people write these things. You know, sometimes I think you can be just short and sweet, prayer hands and a heart. That's good.
That's your style.
Well, because I don't know what else I can offer to you. I can show you my support in what you're going through. But when people say, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I got that a lot when I did my video and talked about Mike Leach, because Mike was a friend of mine, and I spoke to him every week. I've never had dinner. I never vacationed with a guy. I didn't know his wife, but I considered him a friend of mine. He always texted me back. We had great conversations. People were like, and it banged me up a little bit, and people are like, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. It's very nice of you to say that. But it's not my loss. I'm feeling it. Now, if it was my father, my sister,
okay,
my
that's
brother,
what I was going to ask you. So it's not. It's.
I guess it depends. Maybe based on what I'm portraying on Facebook or Instagram.
Well, and social
people
media.
think, "Wow, this must have been a really good friend of his." I am sorry for your loss because I know you're hurting right now, and so I get that.
Yes, that's the whole point.
But it kind of spins it around to the person who's actually
eulogizing
the person.
But it is your loss.
I know. It's just weird to me. But I saw a lot of people, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I'm going...
Yeah. Family member. Your connection.
I mean, when Eddie Van Halen died, I said, Eddie Van Halen died, he's a great guitarist, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and someone wrote, so sorry for your loss.
Yeah, well, okay, that's not right.
I'm going...
it's not that it's raw. Well, it's not accurate.
Yeah. It's just a little weird.
Yeah.
It's because it ain't about me. It's like...
But if it was your best friend, if I died...
I don't want it to be about me.
No, I know, because it's about somebody who's somebody... Damon's a good example. I don't know how close Damon was to Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
But let's say they were close friends.
Yeah.
Or you and Mike Leach.
I think it's okay to say sorry for your loss because he was in a fraternity.
That's fine too. Yeah.
He is one of the rare. I mean, how many guitar players are there in the world that play lead guitar for Leonard Skinner for God's sakes?
Exactly.
So I do think that's a tight.
Absolutely. Anyone, an athlete in the sport. I mean, obviously, if it's on the same team.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Maybe somebody in. I think I get this a lot in business. It's a really interesting thing. If you've got a company that is, I don't know, maybe 15 people. Yeah. And an employee dies. Yeah. It is sorry for your lost 15. Yeah. But I work with companies who have 300 people, 3,000 people.
Is it okay?
And somebody dies, it's quite possible that people in the organization don't even know who that was. Yeah. But B, if they do know who it was, maybe they didn't, they liked them, but they interacted with them once every other month. It wasn't, yeah. And so then you say, sorry for your loss. It is kind of you're right. See what you're doing with your face?
If DeMar Hamlin had died and someone was friends with the equipment manager, and they wrote, I'm sorry, so sorry for your loss. I don't know if
but unless the equipment manager had a good...
I mean, you're better off saying... I think some people just don't know what the hell to say.
That's exactly what they... Listen...
and they're trying to show their support.
And they don't want to be... People don't want to be offensive. Yeah. They don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah. And there are sort of like, if you will, safe, appropriate things. Thoughts and prayers... My condolences, my deepest condolences. I always use that one. My deepest condolences, or my condolences. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers. So sorry for your loss. That's really about it.
You'll hear that phrase about 1 million times at funerals. I mean, it's the first thing you say to somebody. I got a friend of mine.
Well, particularly if you go to their funeral, and it is their family member, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Plus, it allows you.
Is there something psychological? I can't believe we're going here. Is there something psychologically beneficial to making it about the person who's still alive?
Yeah, because it is about the person who's still alive. It's not about the person who died.
What if you said, "I'm so sorry for his loss"? I mean, after Jeff Beck dies, would you say, you walk up to his wife and go, "I'm so sorry for his loss"?
No, that's terrible.
No?
No, I mean...
Certainly the way
you could say it, "I'm hurting because he's no longer with us."
Yeah.
But, that's a lot of words.
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't...
I think we're always trying to find different things to say.
Because everybody's saying the same thing.
Everyone says the same thing.
It's like, hi.
And it's the thoughts and prayers thing. It's kind of like, and that's what the Dan Orslowski thing from ESPN was so cool about. He took a step further. He's like, okay, screw this thoughts and prayers. Let's get on it and start praying.
Although I will say, I always tell people, it's okay, if you can't think of anything else to say, use one of the... only on our show. Use one of the templated statements.
The default.
Yeah.
It's a default statement.
Particularly, social media is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Social media is because there's only so many things you can say. If you're looking them in the eye, I think "I'm so sorry for your loss" can be conveyed in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
If you're looking at that.
But I think
you got a smirk on your face.
Yeah.
You just
because I think in the social media world we try to we have to one up everybody. And if you're seeing thoughts and prayers, and "I'm so sorry for your loss," then
I've done that.
Then we feel like we have to take it a step further by throwing an extra heart emoji,
or something different,
or a blue heart emoji,
or something different.
Yeah,
that is so.
Or
funny.
putting the word "so," or my deepest condolences.
Listen,
screw that condolence crap. My deepest.
But it's not. I don't think it's a one up. I do think, and I've done. This has happened to me on social media. You do see. Thoughts and prayers if somebody's sick.
Yeah.
And you get to be, you're number 17 in line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You want them to know, even on social media, you do want them to know that it's it means something to you. But when you see it already repeated, it feels like it doesn't. So
isn't that what memes are all about? I mean, that's what people do the memes thing, right?
But even those, if somebody's done the memes, then, and it's all the same.
By the way, how many memes are out there?
I don't know.
People that send me memes all the time, they're standard, right? There's anyone can use that same meme.
Yeah.
Right? You can't. I mean, can you make your own meme? I'm assuming
Probably.
you make them. Yeah. So when I see someone sending me memes, I'm like, I've seen this 1 million times. I'd almost rather just get the emoji.
Thoughts and prayers.
It's taking up my data space, man.
That's why you say peace.
Good morning, Justin Brown. Good morning there, Justin Brown. I was just talking about you. Justin Brown was my artist.
There's something...
Justin, you owe me a piece of artwork, by the way.
There was some... Can I just... In your studio, there was something outside your studio on the power line that was large and just full of blood. I know you usually...
A bird?
No, it crawled.
Okay. Alabama Power just called. I got a possum around here, and Alabama Power called me yesterday.
Seriously?
They want to cut some tree limbs down around the house.
Yeah, because there was something gigantic that just... It may have been a line.
I have a giant possum outside that looks like a cow. It's white and black spots. It's the most amazing thing.
Okay, it may have been on your power line.
All right, so our thoughts and prayers and our deepest condolences.
To his family.
And we're sorry for the loss of anyone who was part of the Jeff Beck family.
Yes. See, but don't do that. That sounds good. You're doing it with...
I meant it, too.
I know, but you...
As a guy who doesn't play guitar, I've played guitars on my radio station for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I will go out, and I may be getting caught up in the moment.
You are. Are you going to cry?
I might.
Okay.
I may get caught up in the moment. But just based on... And again, we got this show that I've been talking about for months, and we're going to start... we're starting next week called Wake...
You better hurry up.
Yeah, it's called Wide Awake Wake. It's a show about rock and rollers who haven't died yet. And Paul McCartney's the first one we're killing off. We're going to do a show because Jeff Beck deserved to be talked about before he died. But we only talk about rock and rollers, and I'll tell you, the moment this happened for me is when Stevie Ray Vaughan died. We didn't play any Stevie Ray Vaughan on Classic Rock 99 when I was here for 30 years until he died. And then after he died, we played all of his music. I'm like, why did we wait till he died to play his music? And it'd be same way when Christine McVie died, all of a sudden Fleetwood Mac held the top 5 spots on streaming services. I understand that. But we're going to start doing Wide Awake Wake, where we're actually going to eulogize these rock and rollers and talk about their great contributions and their iconic legacies in rock and roll before they die.
Good.
And then when they do pass away,
you replay it.
Then we can replay it. And Jeff Beck was certainly one of those names on our list, but he beat us to the punch.
Oh God, we're headed down a.
We're going to talk about bachelor parties on Fox 6 today. It's something that Josh and I, this is right up our alley. This is perfect. Justin Brown, by the way, I forgot to mention, you owe me a piece of artwork, Justin, for my birthday from 14 years ago.
Maybe he's not ready yet.
Put the brush in the hand, just start stroking, brother. Make me something happy. We'll talk about bachelor parties. There was a gal who wrote this story. She's been with her boyfriend about 1.5 years. Was it 1.5 years? Am I right there?
Yeah.
About 1.5 years, because that certainly plays into the story.
Yeah.
And he's having a bachelor party.
Because they're getting married.
Because they're getting married.
Yeah, right.
You want a bachelor party.
But it's her fiance. It's more than her boyfriend.
Yeah. And she said that if he has strippers at his bachelor party, not if he cheats with a stripper, but if he has strippers at his bachelor party, it's over.
Yep.
He might as well move on.
Right.
Now, my dad was my best man in my wedding.
Okay.
His birthday is coming up on the 14th. He was born 1935, so he'd be 65, he'd be 87 if he's still alive. And I got married about 20 years ago, so he was in his upper 60s. And when I asked him to be my best man, he first said no. And I was like, what? He's like, I'm not being your best man, I'm your dad. And I said, yeah, but I want you to be my best man because I love my father. And my mom, of course, chimed in, that's what they do down in the South. That's culture. Down in the South, they have their fathers as their best man. I said, no, they don't. That's not a Southern culture thing, Mom. No, I want him to be my best man because he is my best man. He's the best man I know in my life.
Right.
You could have asked my brother or my best friend. He could have asked you if I'd known you during
I didn't know you.
He said, no. I said, no. So my dad said yes. And then a couple weeks later, we had this conversation. He said, one of the reasons I didn't want to be your best man was because I know the best man puts on the bachelor party.
That's
and
insightful.
I said, and he goes, I'm not having strippers in the house. And I said, Dad,
That's great.
Dad, I'm 36 years old, 37 years old. I said, I don't need strippers.
No wake and bake, no porn, no strippers.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have some board games, and but he goes, I'll have a lot of liquor. I'll have a ton of liquor, and I'll have cabs. I'll have a ton of liquor. I mean, we can run a beer.
Oh,
he said, but I'm not doing
bless his heart.
What a typical. And I said, no, Dad. I said, I don't want. I'm not. I said, first of all, I went to one strip club with my dad in Las Vegas. He was like, I'm not smoking dope with my son, and I'm not going to a strip club with my son. And he almost got sick to his stomach. He said the smell
was it super awkward?
Or
slightly
not for us. We were actually there with my dad's best friend's son was celebrating his bachelor party on our trip to Las Vegas. We always went to Vegas every year, and it just so happens it was around the time this guy was going to get married. So he's like, I might as well have my bachelor party out there. And my dad didn't want any of it. And he said the perfume made him nauseous. He's like, he was in there for about 15 minutes. He's like, I'm getting out of here. And I was like, I'll leave with you. So I left with him. So I was like, no, we don't do it. So we played this horsey game. We were playing, baccarat and poker and this, that, the other. And I said, yeah. And so this gal says if he has strippers at his party. And now I've been to parties where, I remember the Friends episode, no strippers. And then, of course, there's always one guy who bullshit, we're having strippers. It's a bachelor party, we're having strippers. Now, you could have strippers, and it's purely symbolic in that it is your last night. And by the way, bachelor parties used to be bachelor parties used to be the night before,
like
the wedding.
literally the night. Yeah, right.
That was a tradition too. Now bachelor parties are 3-4 weeks, months before, and I think that's because they want to find out what exactly is going to happen.
Yep.
But it was symbolic for a man to be with his best friends who he used to run with or still runs with, and to enjoy all the things a single man would enjoy because it's his last chance. Symbolic. Right? And so we used to have, a stripper come out and do the thing and tie him up in the chair, and she'd come out and do her thing, nothing would happen.
Right.
Then we get out drunk, and maybe we go to the casino, we do things guys do. Part of my bachelor party, I want to play golf.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoy it.
That's great.
And then as the years went by, bachelor parties got a worse rap because we found out that, the hangover, for God's sakes. Right. I mean, that's the epitome of what bachelor parties are all about.
Well, the other thing that then happened is...
Then we had, okay, well, if you're going to have a bachelor party, I'm going to have a bachelorette party.
But some dude is going to...
Yeah. And some guy's going to be slinging his
song
there in your face.
And we went, are you kidding? No way.
No, I think a lot of guys are like, fine. No, I think I do. A lot of guys are like,
well, because he trusts because women.
Because he trusted her more than she probably trusted him.
Yes.
Now, first of all, that's a totally different argument for a different day. But,
by the way,
if you're doing something in spite of someone else doing something else, the old two wrongs don't make it right. That's just really stupid. Well, you went out with your friends, so I'm going to go out with my friends. And
that happens all the time in relationships.
Well, it's stupid.
It always happens.
Go out if you want to go out.
But it always happens.
Yeah, but if you're doing something just because I'm doing something,
it happens all the time.
Well,
they're going out. I should go out.
Fine, go out.
By the way,
you don't have to wait for me to go on my trip to go have your own trip. If you want to go on your trip, go have your trip. Don't do it because of me. Do it because you want to, and I'm okay with it.
By the way,
if that's what you need.
We can't say sling anything on TV. I'm just letting you know. Keep going.
Sling?
We can't say sling. Okay, keep going. So she says.
Can I say banana hammock?
No, you just get it all out of your system because they didn't get. We're not going to do it.
So
she says no way.
Yeah, she's not saying, and according to this article, 30% of bachelors, or 30% of men who are getting married, cheat on their bachelor party night, which is horrible, but quite frankly, it's a lot lower than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, no, hang on. 30% acknowledge somehow. Yeah. Or it was acknowledged.
I've been to a lot of bachelor parties where the guys are like, okay, I'll sit down 10 minutes.
That's exactly. Well, it's like a Chippendales.
And then the rest of the guys,
they can go after it.
They get after it. And half those guys are married.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
that's why.
Let's not talk about the bachelor. Let's talk about the bachelor's friends. Because if you're married to a guy for 4 or 5 years and he's going to a bachelor party, you probably have more to worry about than the bachelor himself.
That is actually, that is very insightful. Yes.
I mean, if you're going to say no, because if this gal's saying you ain't going to you're not having a bachelor party with strippers, then why should he be allowed to go to any bachelor party with strippers? Why should he be allowed to go to a strip club, period? And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. I mean, if he's not allowed to have strippers at his bachelor party, then you sure as hell not going to another.
Okay, so here's the thing.
For some reason, we think that once you get married, it all stops.
No.
Okay, once married now, he's not going to cheat. Well, that's when married guys cheat.
Yeah, but now you're going into a whole nother level. I mean, the fact, to me, the most important relationship part is when she says no strippers at your bachelor party. There is a fascinating psychological scenario that has just been lifted up.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is the classic, if he says, well, don't you trust me? And then what does she say? I trust you. If I trust, of course I trust you. Yeah. Then why can't I have strippers?
Yeah.
And if he's saying, well, why can't I have strippers? And she's saying, I don't want you to. Why is it so important to him to have strippers?
Exactly. Then she comes around and she says, well, don't you respect my thoughts?
There you go.
Don't you respect me?
Yes.
Because if you respect me, you won't do this.
That's right.
Exactly. And in most cases, they'll say, hey, we don't have any strippers, and then someone will always bring one.
Well, okay.
And then she finds out, and you're like, I had nothing to do with this. And then she's making phone calls. To
she's calling the bat. This is why your dad wanted to be bachelor.
And what should be a fun night out with your guys as a symbolic last night before you get married, because once you get married, you don't cheat. Okay. What turned into be a symbolic has turned into this huge, hell, guys spend more time on their bachelor parties than they do on their wedding night.
Because
she's out there writing, invitations to 300 guests, and he's down at Sammy's with his buddies, and they're getting ready to play poker.
I mean, look, this is to me as complex as this thing can get.
Yeah.
The approach or the way you approach this is really simple. Well, really, really simple. You want to be super safe? There's no need for strippers at your bachelor party.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the super safe. And you go, and to the point where, and this is the problem, you tell your best man, look, no strippers. You
Yeah.
said no strippers. No, this is not good. I don't want it. It's not good for my relationship. No strippers. And then typically the best man's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's friends.
Right.
Yeah,
And then everybody's like,
right.
but you were like, no. I mean, really. And so that happens. But if she says no strip, if she absolutely tells you no strippers, sure, there may be some trust issues there,
Yeah.
right? Because why would she even bring it up? But if she says it, then here's what you say. Okay.
Yeah.
You're getting married.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that I see that's so
You're
amazing.
spending the rest of your life with your woman. This is the first major trust issue that comes up that you need to prove your
Right.
words.
Now, I would ask her.
And if you have to have strippers, then you don't need to be getting married.
Right. But I would also ask her, and not that I don't trust, but I would ask her, why is it important for you for him not to have strippers? Now, I'm guessing her saying, which is because that's gross.
There sounds like there's some trust issues right
Well,
there.
or wouldn't you maybe not-
If she's saying you can't have strippers or else he's hitting the road, and she could have just been putting this on TikTok. Just
Right.
they got 18 million views. I get that.
Well,
Now-
wouldn't you
now-
wonder why?
Now, here's the other thing. Say you're a guy, and this is probably a rarity, that doesn't, maybe you've been married 3 or 4 times before,
Right.
maybe you're in your 40s or 50s and you're just not into it, but she wants to have a bachelorette party.
Well, that's where yep.
And
Yes.
I mean, and I've seen enough of these, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas commercials, where it's misogynistic at best, but we always think guys have bachelor parties in Vegas, and they're having a good time, and all of a sudden the car door opens, and it's for women getting out.
Yes.
And they're all dressed to the nines, they get the boobs, and they're
Yeah.
they're ready, and you're like,
Yep.
whoa, wait a minute.
Yes. I mean, listen. My daughter, my daughter lives in Charleston.
Yeah.
Oh my God! On any weekend in Charleston, there are little cohorts of 4 to 6 women, all drunk,
Yeah.
walking the cobblestone roads.
Oh, yeah.
With one of them that's got whatever. It's my last night, and
she's got plastic things hanging off.
yeah, it is. And but I do think you're what's so interesting to me is you're playing with fire on all sides. We are at this place where we don't, during the time where the bachelor party was symbolic of the man's last night, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But that was then. It's the woman's last night too.
Sure.
So
And the difference is she's usually looking forward to the fact that it's her last night because she can't wait to that next day. For a lot of guys, I think that's a little different. Because they are giving up their manhood, they're giving up their singleness.
Don't.
And da-da-da.
Don't. We've said it on this show a million times. Nobody's making you get married.
Yeah. From another standpoint, I think it's very interesting in that we feel like, again, it was always symbolic. It was always kind of a wink and a nod. It's your last night.
Well, hell, the garter belt. The garter belt's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's your last night. And I, from a philosophical or even a psychological standpoint, I would say, why is it important that this is it is symbolic. It's your last night as a single man.
So
it's your last night at 39 before you turn 40.
Right.
And nothing's going to change.
Right.
You're going to be a day older. It's just a number. And now for marriage, obviously it's a little different, but it really shouldn't be. Because
it's your last.
marriage. Talk about symbolism.
Yes.
What's the wedding ring? The wedding ring doesn't keep you married. It doesn't keep you from cheating.
Right.
It's purely symbolic. And while weddings are legal, from a liability standpoint, certainly, they're symbolic in ways as well. I mean, a lot of guys will say, we've been together for 10. I got a good friend of mine was with a woman for 15 years. They loved each other. They had a great relationship. They didn't cheat. And she was like, I want to get married. And he's like, why?
Yeah.
We've been together for 15 years. It's been great. I have a gay friend of mine who was with a guy for over 20 years. And it was a purely symbolic, but it was super important to him that the world know that we are a couple and we're married. And maybe it's because his friends are like, if you love them so much and you've been with them, why don't you just get married?
Yes.
Well, why should I get married? So that's, it's a different.
Well, but to me, it digs in. It kind of digs into the same question. It's kind of this. It's a very similar situation. If you love somebody and they're asking you to do something, like get married,
Yeah.
and there's no logistical reason why you shouldn't. There's no relational issue why you shouldn't. Y'all are good. then if you say no, my first question is why? There's no, actually I shouldn't, if I'm being a psychologist, help me understand. They want to get married. You all have been together for 5 years. You live together. You own a home together. And it is important to your partner that you formalize that relationship. It is one thing for you to say, well, it's not that important to me, but if it's important to you, absolutely. It's another thing to say, there's no need. There's just, you're blowing it. You're absolutely, unless you are hiding something. I don't mean cheating. Unless there is something deeper psychologically about the commitment issue. Which
maybe you were in a really lousy marriage the first time and you don't want to jinx it, or you don't like this didn't work last time. Exactly. Last time we were in love and we got married and everything changed. Now this is really interesting, because if you got a woman or a guy saying you're not having a party, if you do, I'm out. That's a red flag.
If the fact
on
that
both sides. Because I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is the woman who thinks that just because they're married, everything's going to change. And if you're a guy who, he doesn't cheat, but he goes out with his buddies and has a good time. Who knows what he does, right? He could be going to strip clubs, he could be going to ball games, whatever. I'm sure he's telling her one thing, he's probably doing something. We're going to Buffalo Wild Wings again to watch the ball game, and they're going to Sam, whatever. And all of a sudden, she thinks that's going to stop.
When they get married?
Well,
it gets interesting. It gets interesting because she can think that it's going to be attenuated. Right? Because when look, we got to paint the scenario. If you've been living together for 5, 6, 7 years, and you pretty much on a day-to-day basis, you are engaged like a married couple, that's a different story. But if you're single and you've been together in a relationship, but you go out every Friday night with your friends and you go out and you watch stuff, a lot of that does change when you get married and move together.
But it changes because you both want it to change.
Well, yeah, but it is a...
If it's changing because all of a sudden she's like, you've been doing this for years with your buddies and all of a sudden I don't like it anymore, then that's something that needs to be discussed before you get married. And I'm guilty of this. I used to go to Vegas every January over my dad's birthday. I went for 9, 10, 11, 12 years in a row.
Well, that's fine.
And one of the things I told my now ex-wife, this is something I do. I'm going to ask you if it's okay, but I know that you want me to be happy. And nothing happens. I'm with my dad, for God's sakes, and my brother. We're not doing anything. But it's really important to me. And I hope you understand that. And every year, I got the cold shoulder. I'm not going to say no because I know it's important to you. And I'm like, again, I'm going with my father.
Yeah, that's
But I mean, there was a little, and then of course, all the wives were like that. My dad would get home from Vegas, and my mom would have his bags packed every year. My dad would always
bags packed like from a divorce.
Get the hell out.
Okay.
And I would always. And my dad was 60. Last time we went, he was 80 years old. And and he would ask me, "Please come home with me. I need your help." And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because I know Jane's going to have my bags packed, and having you there is going to be a buffer." And I go, and then a couple of days later, she was fine, but she always thought.
But that's not right. There's a difference between.
And they were married for 50-something years.
There's a big difference between saying every year I go with my best friends or my family or my brothers to this annual trip, be it Vegas. There's a difference between that and this is going to piss some guys off, I play golf every weekend. Every Saturday I play golf. I want you to know that. I play golf with my friends, which by definition that's 4 to 8 hours. Playing golf every weekend when you get married, let's not even put in kids, but throw kids in there, that you potentially have to put that chip in, and you don't get to do that every single weekend. Because you have other responsibilities. But my point is, that's different than going to Vegas once a year.
Exactly. And how important is it that you play golf every weekend?
Well, that's where it gets.
And I'll use hunters as an example.
Hunters
leave Friday at 5 o'clock after work, and they're back on Monday morning, and they smell like deer piss. That's what they do. Hunters are avid people. I mean, they hunt. The season's short.
It's very short.
Whenever the season, turkey hunting, whatever. Deer hunters. My gosh, deer hunters. And their wives are like, I get it, and it makes him happy. And if it makes you happy, and I'm okay with it, then that's something and hopefully when you're with somebody and you're courting somebody, they're already with you, and they realize that during this portion of the year you're going to be gone every weekend. Now, a lot of women.
But again, every weekend, to me, I have a problem.
It depends on how important it is.
No, but I have a problem with I'm going to be gone every weekend. If being gone every weekend has a negative impact on either your relationship or, again, I'm going.
Yeah. Why is she asking you to stop? Because if you're married and you don't have any kids,
right?
Nothing should really change. All of a sudden, you bring a little bambino in or something like that, and all of a sudden she's got extra responsibilities. Then stuff should, and you should say, listen.
Right.
It's time to change a little bit. Maybe I'll cut it back to 9 holes, or maybe I'll just stop golfing altogether.
That's exactly,
and that will go really far in that particular thing. But if I was a piano player, and I love piano, didn't play concerts or anything, but it was a way for me to get out, and I just really love playing piano. And I played piano every day from 5 until 6.
Well, that's different.
Or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, for my personal health,
absolutely,
and I enjoyed it. I was Jeff Beck, and I just loved to pick up a guitar and play for an hour every day because that is my place.
But you see what you're saying?
And she says all of a sudden, "Oh, I don't want you to do that anymore."
No,
because we have a dinner date tonight. Then I'm kind of going.
Well, now we have a dinner date tonight. See, now we're getting even another interesting.
Then you need to make the dinner date a different night.
No, we're changing the parameters, and when you change the parameters, the impact on the relationship is different.
Yeah.
We went from I'm going to strip clubs to I go once a year to I go deer hunting to I go golfing every week to I do this for 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
Okay, I do this for 1 hour a day. Whatever they're doing, well, not whatever, but assuming whatever they're doing 1 hour a day is from a relationship standpoint not detrimental, then the last thing you should be doing is telling them that they shouldn't do it 1 hour a day. Now, if it is something like playing an instrument, reading a book, working out, I've gotten into this myself. I work out every morning.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going away this weekend, right? We're going. We can't leave till 10 because I'm going to.
Did you say that?
I did. Well, yeah, and guess what? I went and worked out at 4 a.m. That was the compromise. We're fine. We're leaving at 7. You can work out whatever flipping time you want to work out, but the car's leaving at 7. My point is that's where being in a relationship means you will have to sacrifice some of the things that you're used to doing on your own, in your own way, with no restrictions. It happens all the time. I have seen relationships, I can think of one particular one, not mine, where the guy was an avid bike rider.
Yeah.
They were going to go to the beach, right? We're leaving. We want to leave the beach by 9 a.m. We're going to drive down to the beach. Well, I'm going to go on a ride. Okay, we're leaving at 9 a.m. I need you to be home to go on a ride. 9:30, he shows up, right? He comes back. Car's not packed. Nothing's packed. And she's like, what are you doing? Well, you said we're going to leave at 9. I'm only 30 minutes late. Well, 30 minutes late, and you haven't done anything. That's the kind of, I don't know how to say it. On the one hand, I want to say that's the kind of dumbass move. But if I get more clinical, that is a total self-focus move.
And a disrespectful one.
Yes. And
I'm betting that she probably said we're leaving at 9. He's like, well, I usually arrive there about 10, so I'm willing to go at 9:30.
But he never said that.
Yeah.
But he didn't say that. He just showed up late.
Yeah. Bike riders are interesting characters.
Yeah, well, because you can't bike ride for 10 minutes. You can't. It's like golf. It is like golf.
Yeah, what if they're doing something that you tolerate, and they're bike riders? It's good.
Right.
Keeps them in shape.
Yeah.
They enjoy it.
But
then after you get married, they start doing it more.
Yeah. I'm going on another ride this weekend. Well, no, that's okay.
That happens in the gym a lot, right?
That is another, you got to unpack that shit, because that's another thing. Why are you on a bike ride now that you're married? Now that you're living together, right? Now that you're together all the time. I'm going on a bike ride every single day. And where it gets even worse, I'll just let it this. Once you have kids, and you're like, well, I'm going to go on another bike ride. Oh, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're not. And don't believe, if you're the guy, you're not entitled to anything when you are a parent other than equal negotiated stuff.
Yeah.
I'm telling every guy.
Kids are so cool because, and this, you need to do this. If you're just getting married, listen to us. If you're getting married, first of all, you should have a plan. How many kids you're going to have, and when you want to have them.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people get married, they consummate the marriage, their wedding night. They may have had sex a million times before. Right. Maybe she's getting off the pill on our wedding night. Right. I don't know. And then typically 9-10 months later, she's pregnant, and you're having your first child within the first year of marriage.
Yep.
In a typical moralistic type of thing. But before you even get to the point where you consummate, I think it's safe to say that you should have a conversation. Okay, we've agreed to have 2 kids. I did it with my ex. We're going to adopt a child, and we're going to have a biological child. We couldn't have biological children. We had a difficult time, so we adopted another one. Then we had a biological child 10 years later. She's a miracle. Blessing my 10-year-old with her question. We'll get to in a second. But I think it's very important that you sit down and say, when we do have this child, let's write out a little bit. Not a Big Bang Theory write out thing.
No, but what's our life going to look like?
What's our life going to look like?
Yeah.
What responsibilities? Because the whole, I got her last night, you're getting her tonight. Well, I just worked 14 hours, and I just rolled in at 2 o'clock in the morning so I get ahead at work. Is it still my night? I just went to bed. I got her, or here's the, I don't change diapers. I cannot believe how many losers out there that will not change their daughter's or their son's diaper. I can't change my daughter's diaper. It's a girl. She's a day old.
Listen. If you're talking about it now, you should have been born about 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That would have worked great.
Back then, the father worked.
Yeah. My dad didn't change diapers.
My dad didn't either. My dad didn't hold babies.
Yeah, my dad held babies.
He held babies like this. Yeah. The first time I introduced him to Xavier, he's like, he stinks. I'm like, get over it.
Yeah.
He shit his pants.
Yes.
Get over it. Hold your son.
I think that is, I think it still exists, but it's changed a lot. Yeah. If you are a guy right now, and you're in a relationship, actually, I was thinking about this for if you're homosexual, you're gay, and you're husband and husband. I think it's actually funny. You can't both say, I'm a guy, I don't change diapers.
No.
Because, first of all, if you both, then they're never. You cannot say, I don't change diapers. You just can't. You can't say.
Then you don't have a kid.
Nope.
It's like saying I don't do homework. Good luck, you stupid son of a bitch. You're doing homework. Unless you want your kid to get D's. I did homework last night. By the way, my daughter's doing fractions.
Oh, you're good with numbers.
I'm great with numbers.
I'm not.
She gave me a 1/2 plus 2/8.
Oh.
Fraction. And I'm like, this is an easy one because the common denominator is going to. She came up with a 12/74. I laughed my ass off for like an hour. I was like, dude, you have a 2 and an 8. Where in the hell did this 70? And of course, the math now, you have to show your work. I said, let me see this. I laughed. So we were laughing. The two of us were laughing for like an hour. I was like, 1 plus 1 is 317. I said, where is this 74 coming from? It was the funniest thing. I couldn't believe I was laughing. I laughed my ass off. She was like, I said, where did 74? I said, you have a 2 and an 8. Where did 74 come from? I said, even if you multiply them together.
Are you shaming her?
She's no. She showed me her work. She just did one thing backwards, and somehow she came with 74. It was great. She did ask the question.
Yeah,
by the way, we're going to be on Fox 6 in about 20-25 minutes, talking more bachelor parties. And kudos to Mike Deverly and Janice Rogers, who we know pretty well.
Yeah.
We have a great partnership with them. My image precedes me a little bit, although I've changed quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 years, but over the last few years. And we're getting into the part of our relationship where we're starting to trust each other. Yeah. Mike, I don't need to have strippers at my bachelor party. And I think what I'm going to say on Fox 6 this morning is probably going to blow some people away because I look at that stuff totally different.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna look at the two of us and they're gonna make assumptions. I'm assuming, Josh, you had strippers.
And I almost thought to myself,
you didn't have strippers in Tony.
I almost thought to myself, I need to go really hard on, yes, strippers are important to bachelor parties. Just be different. Because at the age of 56, I'm kind of like, come on.
Yeah, you have reading glasses. All right, go with your daughter because we got to get her right here.
She asked the question, what would the world look like without men? Now, I can, I'm obviously divorced, so I know that she probably hears things on the other side of the street.
You think so?
That's why I'm really respectful and thoughtful in what I say to her, because I know whatever I say to her is probably, and if I tell her don't tell your mom, then it's going to go out there.
And she's 10, so it'll get translated.
Yeah. So that's why I said it was redhead day tonight, and I kiss a redhead. Dad's talking about making out with redheads in the car this morning. She's like, shit, dude. I didn't say anything about making out with redheads. Because these little 10-year-old, she said one day, she's like, I want to go to the Mediterranean. And I said, she goes, I've seen this video about the Mediterranean. I said, it's beautiful. And so we pulled up some videos of the Mediterranean. I said, it's beautiful. There's some place with a water slide. And I was like, that'd be awesome. I said, you know what? One day, maybe for your 18th birthday or when you graduate or something, we'll go to the Mediterranean. That's as far as it got. I get a phone call. I thought you said you were broke. When the hell are you going to the Mediterranean? How are you affording to go to the Mediterranean? Why the hell would you take a 10-year-old to the Mediterranean? Da-da-da. I said, whoa, dude. Check it back. Yes. I'm not going to the Mediterranean. You can't take our children out of the country. I said, whoa. I said, we were just talking about a vacation someday in the future. Like 20 years from now. And this turned into Dad's taking us to the Mediterranean next Tuesday.
That's exactly.
I'm like, what the hell?
Thanks, Dad.
Anyway, so what would the world look like without men? Dr. Josh, take it away. First of all, what do you say to a 10-year-old that asks that question? Don't give me the answer, because we know what the answer is.
Well, you're in carpool line.
Yeah.
You're gonna be late.
Now get out of here.
What? What?
We'll talk about this after school.
That's right, because and you're hoping and praying that by after school she's forgotten about it.
Turn in those fractions.
Yeah. When you get your fractions right, I'll tell you.
Because if she's getting 1/2 plus 1/8,
right,
and it's getting 12, 20, 74s, I'm not answering the question.
There you go. There you go.
I probably should have said that.
You know, what we used to do as our kids, go Google it. Why don't you go look it up yourself?
What would the world look like?
I think we've talked about this. I think it would be...
be boring.
Nah, it'd be more collaborative.
First of all, we'd have no bachelor parties.
Well, yeah, it would be... I think it would be more collaborative. The A.
Collaborative, what do you mean?
There would be less sort of testosterone-driven lizard fight to the end mentality. I'm not saying it'd be a perfect world. I'm saying, because it'd be more collaborative, but it also would be much more emotionally and psychologically intense and complex. Yes. Now, the good news is, with no men, then there's no men to be left behind on that. But the bad news is, and having a daughter who played sports, you see it in female sports. The psychological nuances, the social nuances, we talked about this a lot. How girls bully each other as compared to how boys punch each other in the face. Girls isolate each other. Mm-hmm. Girls speak subtly bad about one another. And so I think in that kind of world, the psychological sabotage would be next level.
Oh man,
it would just be next level because women are on average more nuanced psychologically, more empathetic.
And if they knew that there weren't men to take their positions, then it would be a cat fight.
But that's the other problem, because then you have sort of natural. Listen, then you sort of have natural selection. Because even though women on average are more that way, it's on a continuum. So think about the women who are not that way.
What world would be better, a world without men or a world without women? Either way, it would fall apart. I told her, I said, the world would fall apart. Well, Dad, I said, no, it would fall apart, first of all, because we couldn't procreate. There'd be no children. I said,
test tube. We'd figure out a way. We'd simulate sperm.
They did it in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
Two male.
Did you ever watch Wonder Woman in the Amazon?
Life will find a way. You're probably right. If you just had all women, they would figure out a way to find some sperm somewhere to have a baby. But then we'd have baby boys, and then they'd have to kill them all. It'd be King Herod, kill all the 2-year-olds. We'd have to kill. By the way, people loved our nativity scene thing about Jesus having a terrible tooth. I got some scathing. Dude, I got some scathing email and info at Tony Curry.
Just blame it on me.
Saying, I cannot believe you talked about Jesus having a terrible tooth. I said, Jesus was human. He was a human. I said, you don't think that 2-year-old shits his diaper and has terrible teeth?
Even the Son of God, yes.
Gold, he probably threw it back in his face and pooped his drawers. He's Jesus, for God's sakes.
I do think. So I think the other thing is, if we're going to go there, it gets interesting. I think that women would have to, it's not that they would adopt because they have it already. What would become more prominent are some of the, what I would call traditional male characteristics. Remember, we're different, but we're still human.
Yeah.
So competition, survival, lying, cheating, stealing, like that's all gonna be there.
Yeah.
It just would be culturally different.
I think over the course of time, men without having women to...
Oh, women, we'd kill, we're done quick.
It would be...
We're done quick.
Yeah.
You never see, listen,
we
you
knew
never
we
see
had
television
no women,
shows.
man.
You never see television shows.
That'd be a great TV
I
show.
just watched the new Marvel, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is it good?
The movie,
Yeah.
some badass women.
Angela Bassett. She won a gold glove.
Badass.
Yeah.
But I think men would do each other in. They would annihilate each other off a lot more quickly.
Yeah, and not from a competitive standpoint, just because they would have no release. I think guys...
Well, no, and a competitive and a lack of cooperation.
And Pornhub would go through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but there'd be no... Yeah, okay. All right, we gotta go.
All right, Fox 6 will be on Fox 6 this morning here in about 20 or 30 foot. It looks like the weather's going to hold off, so we should be good. Of course, we haven't been watching. See if we got any tornado warnings or anything. We should be good. Hey, thanks for watching this morning here on Facebook. Of course, you can hear all of our podcasts, the Tony Curry Radio Podcast. Just search TKR Podcast or Tony Curry Radio Podcast. We're on every major industry. Spotify is where all of our musical shows. I'm doing another Winter Rome with Stuart Rome today from the Woodhouse Day Spa. Birmingham.woodhousespas.com. Birmingham.woodhousespas.com. It's a great show. The Austin Hank Show, Blues Almighty, the Damon Johnson Show is fantastic. We have all these musically elemented shows. You can hear those on Spotify. We're on Audio Boom and iTunes and everything else. Kurre and Klapow Show. So thanks for watching. And turn on Fox 6 coming up in just a few minutes, and you'll see our beautiful mugs. You going to change your clothes?
I brought a collared black shirt.
Keeping the same clothes.
Yeah, I can stay in this.
Have yourself a wonderful day. We appreciate you watching. Love you. Bye.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.